the fisherman who taught Harvard. He had no degree, no university, no publications. Harvard flew him in any way because no one on earth knew what he knew. Rafael Mendoza had fished the same stretch of Philippine coastline for 31 years. No formal education beyond primary school. No scientific instruments beyond what his hands and eyes and nose and the pressure in his sinuses told him about the weather and water. No grants, no lab, no funding committee. Just the sea, and 31 years of paying attention to it. But Rafael knew things that cannot be found in any textbook. Things that took him years of silence and salt air and failure and bone-deep patience to accumulate. He knew fish migration patterns that marine biologists had spent decades trying to model with computers and satellites and research vessels. He knew reef health indicators that multi-million-dollar imaging systems routinely missed. He knew 3 days before any storm, from the behavior of specific bait fish near specific rock formations, exactly what was coming. Not approximately. Exactly. 31 years on the same coastline, 4 times regional average, catch rate 0 boats lost in 3 decades. His catch rate, over 30 years, was 4 times the regional average. 4 times. In an industry where margins are razor thin, where families eat what they catch, where nature offers no mercy for the unprepared. 4 times the average is not luck. It is a form of genius. And he had never lost a boat. Not once. Not in typhoon season. Not in the unpredictable Sulu sea squalls that have swallowed far more experienced fleets. In 2009, a marine biology PhD student named Dr. Claire Fontaine arrived in the Philippines to study coral reef degradation. She hired Rafael as a guide. Standard practice, she assumed. A convenient local who knew the waters. She had done this before in other postings. Hire someone who knows the tide schedules. Tip generously, collect the samples, go home, and write the paper. Within 2 weeks, she was taking detailed notes on everything he said. Not just transcribing, genuinely studying, puzzling over his observations the way you puzzle over something that shouldn't be true, but clearly is. She began to realize he wasn't just describing what he saw. He was predicting it. He was reading the reef the way a seasoned cardiologist reads an ECG, not looking for what's there, but for what the pattern means. I think we've been studying this reef wrong for 15 years. Dr. Claire Fontaine, in a call to her supervisor in Boston 1 month after meeting Rafael. Rafael's knowledge, his observation of micropatterns in watercolor, plankton behavior, fish social dynamics, the way certain species cluster before pressure changes, contained ecological indicators that formal science had entirely missed. Not because the science was bad, because science had never thought to ask someone like Rafael. His knowledge framework was invisible to academia, not because it lacked rigor, but because it existed outside the buildings where rigor is credentialed. Dr. Fontaine made a decision. She would spend a full year systematically documenting his knowledge, not as anecdote, not as local flavor, as data. She would treat his 31 years of daily observation with the same seriousness. She would give a decade of peer-reviewed field research, because that is exactly what it was. The resulting paper, co-authored with Rafael, who had never written a scientific paper and who initially insisted he didn't need to be included, was published in a leading marine science journal and immediately attracted attention from research institutions across 3 continents. Harvard's Oceanic Sciences Department extended an invitation, not to Dr. Fontaine alone, to both of them. Rafael Mendoza was invited to address one of the most prestigious marine biology faculties in the world. He wore the same shirt he fished in. It smelled faintly of the sea. He spoke for 40 minutes in Filipino while Dr. Fontaine translated. No slides, no data visualizations, no laser pointer. He described the reef the way he had come to know it. Through story, through metaphor, through the patient accumulation of specific observations made at specific times in specific weathers over decades. He described the way certain fish hold near a particular rock formation when the water temperature drops 1/4 degree before a storm, the way plankton density shifts 3 tidal cycles before a major bleaching event, the way silence, in a reef that should be noisy, means something is already dying. The room was silent throughout, not politely silent, genuinely, uncomfortably productively silent. The kind of silence that happens when people are revising something they thought they understood. You've observed things we don't have language for yet. A professor with 30 years of marine research. Speaking to Rafael after the lecture, Rafael nodded slowly, the way a man nods when something that has always been obvious is finally being said out loud. The reef doesn't speak English, he said. It doesn't speak Filipino either. You just have to listen. The room, reportedly, exhaled. Rafael returned to his coastline. He still fishes the same stretch of water. He still reads the bait fish near the same rock formations. He has not changed what he does, only widened who knows that he does it. The most important knowledge in the world is sometimes in the hands of someone who has never been asked. Not because we are cruel, but because our systems of recognition are narrow, built to find knowledge that looks like itself, that arrives with credentials and citations and conference presentations. Knowledge that doesn't look like that doesn't disappear. It just goes unasked. The reef is still there. So is Rafael. So are thousands of people like him in every field and village and workplace on Earth, holding observations that formal institutions haven't thought to seek. Who in your life holds wisdom you haven't thought to ask for? The question isn't rhetorical. There's probably someone, a grandparent, a colleague, a neighbor, a person whose title doesn't match their knowledge. You just have to listen.